The meeting to order, and since I think you can hear us online better if we all have our microphones on, should we just turn our microphones on right away, everyone? Yeah, yours is not on now. There we go. On. All right, first item of business is roll call. Call to order. We call to order at 6:02. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Roll call, Todd McCollum.
Here.
David Kennedy.
Here.
I had it on. Trisha Brown.
Here.
Kristen Runge.
Here.
Al Dassow.
Here.
Abigail Zellner.
Here. All right, second item of business is approval of the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. And third item of business is, I'm not looking at my agenda right now, is straight to the Housing Force Task Update. Housing Task Force Update. There we go. All right, would you mind, Lauren, when you get a chance?
Yep, bringing it up now.
So today's goal of the meeting is just simply to go over the Housing Task Force update as we're going over. If there are questions that we have or data that we want to pursue over the next few months around housing, this would be a great time for us to make a note of that. And we can find that data and incorporate it into our future work. So back in 2017, we filed the Housing Task Force report, and it has largely been the work of this committee and the village board, or with the support of the village board, to tick off the different recommendations we have that were made back in 2017. And so this is our somewhat annual update today. And this is going to be pretty straightforward and probably a little bit on the dry side. You did see some of this material back in August. This was circulated and we didn't have time to go over it, so we thought we would bring it back tonight. But we'll go through the recommendations and what we have done in the bullet points below that to achieve these recommendations so far. So first recommendation was in recognition that senior housing is needed. The task force suggested that we do further study focused on the needs and the desires of the senior citizens in the village. We have not to date done a senior citizen specific housing study. However, Arboretum Village and Heritage Hills, newer developments, both included twin home lots that were designed to appeal to elders. The hitch with Viridian. Viridian has continued to work through grade and slope issues. At Heritage Hills, they have not been able to successfully identify zero entry suitable lots, but they are working on it with each phase. So we're hoping to see some of that soon. So do we have any specific concerns regarding senior specific housing that we'd like to address or data we would like to collect in the future or over the course of the next year?
Yeah, this is just a quick comment on the senior specific study to be determined. And as I read that and read the recommendation, it is about the seniors living in their existing home and how do we keep them in that existing home, as opposed to saying, you know what, after 50 years, I got to move out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I read that. I can appreciate the new places being built, being that we're kind of looking for that too. But on the other hand, I think it's more about the existing seniors in the existing homes and how do we satisfy them.
Yeah. Other comments, Todd?
Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna just say, like, our program that we ran this year to give up to $10,000. I mean, that seems like something maybe we have to connect differently to attract the seniors, because they might not see it online or they might not see it where we're posting it if they don't get the paper. So maybe we somehow reach out to that community for that same program.
And I can appreciate the program, but that's not necessarily what I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
What I'm speaking to is like real estate taxes and insurance and all those costs keep going up. And at what point do seniors have to get out of their house because they can't afford it? That's what I'm getting at.
And then is your question, how do you keep them in that home or how do you keep them in the community?
In their home.
In their home.
That's where most people are that's where people are most comfortable.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
How do we keep them in their home? Of addressing affordability. I would also add to that, not just affordability, even if you can afford your home, if there are services that we don't have in the village that allow a person to remain in their home, whether that is better connections to senior services or home health assistance from the county, some of those things maybe we should be looking at. Are we adequately supplied with those services? We don't provide those services directly, but we can connect seniors maybe perhaps better to services that help them stay. Tricia and David, did you have any comments on this one?
I did, and Kristen, it comes a little bit after the conversation that we had Monday night at the Planning Commission in interviewing the consulting teams that are being considered for the comprehensive plan update for the community, and just the data of how many people we have that are or will be seniors in the not so distant future, and just trying to accommodate and make sure that we can keep those individuals residents of Waunakee. And I think to the point of Al, it's a combination. I think there's some that may want a different type of housing if they're in a multi-level right now, to have as like a more like one level, or even a some sort of age in place facility, have enough accommodations of that, but just having that be a significant consideration as they go through the comprehensive plan update.
Thank you, Tricia. Yeah, I think that's really important. And they did, if I'm recalling correctly, it was 1 out of every 3 residents is over the age of 65. One of our applicants for the consulting job pointed out, which is great. Is great. Also a strong consideration. David, what did you have for comments, if you had any comments?
Well, you've covered most of them, but I would agree with your last comment there about we probably should be including in our information here what proportion of the population we're talking about here, because it is across the country. It's an issue today that people are aging in place type thing, and so we need to keep that in the forefront to know that it's a rather vital issue.
It is.
Kristen, is there going to be any sort of timeline for that study? Is there like deadlines or
For the comprehensive
for,
plans?
well, just the senior specific study that you're
Well,
referring to?
we would initiate that. We would be the ones
Okay.
to initiate it. I'm wondering how much of this we can include in the comprehensive plan, or if this is, we will be certainly discussing all ages in the comprehensive plan.
It would cover everyone, and I'm sure that there will be a voice from the community that says that we need more attention for seniors, and maybe we use that as a jumping off point to saying we need a senior specific study to look at services in aging in place, or what our options are for people who would like to downsize. But I would say use the comprehensive plan as a jumping off point.
All right, thank you. All right, on to recommendation number 2. It's recommended that we build 160 housing units priced to target households making 80 to 100% of area median income, and that they be constructed in the next 5 years. So that would have been around 2022 or 2023. The recommendation has largely been satisfied by the number of apartments that have been built in the village. And as it says, home ownership options are remaining a challenge. Entry-level homes, not just here in the village, but across Dane County, this proportion of Wisconsin, and indeed all of Wisconsin, has been really challenging. If we're defining entry-level housing as homes under 300,000, most of those that have sold within the village are smaller pre-1990 single-family homes. And even if we look at the last 2 years of data, very few of those would be under 300,000. Maybe when this report was newer, that could have been true. And pre-1990 and condominiums, as well as those pre-1990 single-family homes. So what comments or questions or information would we like to update this recommendation? Pardon?
I'll let someone else start.
All right.
I'll start, Kristen, if you don't want
Thanks.
to. So question on this. I definitely think just the data part of it needs to be updated to reflect what current pricing is. I think we all agree this continues to be a challenge. And I would lean into Lauren to update like what the stats are as far as, is it now still 80 to 100%, or are we is now workforce housing like 80 to 120%? What, just in terms of kind of what the county is looking at or what the region is looking at, and then meshing into to that as far as affordable or workforce housing, if that makes sense. Sorry, I rambled on that, but
No, that made sense. That made sense.
Okay.
Yeah. David, did you have any comments on this one?
Well, the question I had, and I think our rules preclude it, but the home improvement loans for the older housing, the only houses or most of the houses that we see in the village that are in that 300,000 or less category are probably homes that haven't been remodeled in 40, 50 years. I live in a house that's 52 years old and it's been remodeled 3 times, but so my valuation doesn't fit the age group unless they really haven't been that well taken care of over the years. And I guess I don't know if that program would be available to new buyers or that something they'd even know about.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, David. Yeah, thank you. Todd, yeah.
I think the home ownership options remain challenging that's the statement that, that we wrestle with all the time,
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to solve. And I don't know that, I have a solution but I feel like that's gonna continue to be a problem, for as long as I'm around.
Yeah. Feels like it's pretty hard to solve. Abby,
I agree. Yeah, I think it would be good to get some more opinions too on that. Like, is there any data about how many new people have moved into the village during this time, into those houses, like that kind of thing? Are we still attracting people, or are people kind of going elsewhere because there is just nothing in their price range around here?
yeah,
I think there's a couple of things. And I think we can get as aggressive as we want to be. And I know Dane County, if not the state of Wisconsin, has a down payment program to aggressively utilize that. And if they don't satisfy what we want to present, then we create our own with some of the TIF extensions. So we do have, we can use that program. And when I say that, and I went by one of the banks, one community bank, no offense to them, but on the wall was first time home ownership seminar. To me, that does no good. You need to go to people, you need to see people. And someone in Lake Ridge Bank actually knocked on doors and said, hey, we're here, how's it going, what's going on? You need to knock on doors and say, here's a program, here's a first time home ownership program, and be much more aggressive if we want to pursue that with the down payment program. Also, if we want to pursue some type of development, which it's kind of a play with what I once presented, and that is with nursing homes, and just a generic term, they have steps where you go from independent living to whatever the middle level is, and you get memory care. Why not create something similar to that within a development where you have initial homeowners and they get some equity, they're move into a bigger, and they get equity as they continue to pay. And at some point they can leapfrog into, other areas. But it's a way for people to get started in the home ownership and to understand the concept. Number two, you have to also, once you give them the seminar, you give them the house and the down payment, you have to actively say, okay, this is your responsibility. You got to prepare for taxes. You got to prepare for insurance. You got to prepare for repairs and maintenance. Educating some of these folks, because not everybody is as astute as we think they should be. But to help them with that, I think that would be a major step in making sure that the village is doing their part in getting homes created at their level.
Can I was gonna save this till we got to the recommendation 11, but I totally agree with the down payment assistance thing. And I had brought up to Kristen last meeting, I believe it's Jackson County, and I know this is a county level program, not a municipality, but they do down payment assistance where you basically trade volunteer hours for the community for that down payment. And part of it is doing like a homeownership program of like educating on exactly those points of here's how to take care of a property instead of just calling your maintenance guy or your landlord. So I don't know if there would be enough money in any of our TIFs or anything from the village, but could be something we could look into to adapt and start offering.
Yeah. Lauren and I had talked to Eagle County, Colorado, and they do, their down payment assistance is actually a balloon loan. So you get, I think, because their housing prices are crazy. I mean, it's, $50,000, $60,000, some cases I remember it was a little bit more than that. And it's not due until you turn back around and sell the house, but we probably would have money to do that, not at, a huge scale. But if, at 10 or 20 homes, alone, that would be really a nice start. So, or how.
But again, working with Dane County and figuring, so we
Mhm.
don't want to overlap.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Working in conjunction side by side with that program.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Any other comments on recommendation 2? If not, let's move on to recommendation 2.1. 2 point, I guess I broke this up into bullet points. Since 2021, we've had an estimated 13 condominiums or twin homes that have sold for less than 200,000. 46 condos have sold between 200 and 300, and 22 detached single-family homes have sold less for 300. So that is, a relatively small number of homes. And again, we've got the breakdown, single and family and twin homes that have sold between 300,000 and 400,000. 52 are in Heritage Hills in their initial couple of streets that they developed. 20 sold for 300 to 350, and 32 homes sold for 351 to 400. I don't know if any of the new builds in Heritage Homes are at that price point anymore. I haven't looked in the last couple of months. So, but that initial kind of tranche of homes that they built did hit, I know we were hoping for sub 300, but did at least hit 300 to 350. So, and this might be yet one more item on recommendation 2. When the report was filed, median household income in Wanakee was $98,000. If we adjust that to 2022 inflation adjusted dollars, which is the year that everything is adjusted to in this slideshow, that's about 114,000. Median income in Wanakee reached 132,000 in 2022 inflation adjusted dollars last year, as compared to 84 across Dane County and 75 nationwide. So we continue to be a higher income community within Dane County than our neighbors. Recommendation 3, it's recommended that 75 income qualified rental units be constructed within the next 5 years. The Villages on Main supplied 40 income qualified rental units. We've had discussions or interest from other LIHTC developers since the Villages on Main was started, but nothing has been officially proposed yet. And I don't know that we've got anybody right now that has approached the village to develop. So we met almost half of this goal, but have not had other developers interested. Do we have any comments on this item? Abby? Al?
No,
No.
none.
Todd?
No.
David?
No, and
Trisha?
No.
No, all right. Recommendation 4, it's recommended that the village work with developers or lenders to pursue a variety of housing loans and credits, including TIF, low-income housing tax credit, and assistance from the Federal Home Loan Bank. The Cohen Esri project, Villages on Main, has been an example of that. And to date, TID extensions have provided support for Villages on Main, the initial tranche for the Wanakee Housing Betterment Fund. And is this number accurate? If I pulled it in August, we've got about $945,000. Yeah, in affordable housing projects or in dollars that are coming. So any comments on this one?
Just a question, just for clarification. The 945 is money that was spent, Kristen, or money that's available for additional?
I believe that's the money we're expecting over the next couple of years.
Okay.
And I apologize for not having that more accurately noted. All right, other comments?
I would encourage us to come up with additional programs to find ways, and I don't mean this flippantly, to spend the money. Because for us to extend a TIF and for $945,000 without a cause seems to me starts to come into question about, are we using the money the best way possible? I think we need to come up with something else, a plan, whether it's the down payment, whether it's seniors, whether it's whatever, rental assistance, but something to, another program that helps, it's funded by that 945, as well as the potential for other TIF extensions that come down the road. If we do nothing more than remain as is, I would find it hard pressed if the village board is going to say, yeah, here's another $1 million. So I think we need to start focusing on what's the next step.
I agree.
Yeah, that's sound advice. If you have money, you don't spend it. Get more.
Yeah.
Well, I'd go before that, you know, it's, if you have a program and then you fund it, that's one thing. But you fund something without a program, now you start to say, okay,
Yeah.
you understand that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Trisha?
I totally agree. I guess the question would be is what, you know, as we're thinking longer term, while it seems like a large amount of money, it is a large amount of money. You know, if we're wanting to do something more significant, potentially 1 or 2 projects, then it actually could get absorbed or allocated pretty quickly. So I think it's definitely just as part of that conversation, what sort of timeline are we looking at? You know, if it's identifying land or areas of the town that we want to do this, what kind of development, like that will take some time. So just part of the nuance of it to be thinking about.
David?
I'm a little confused here. I read this to say that the 945 is what's already been spent.
No. Yeah, we have
Because
not
it
spent
says
945. Yeah.
extensions have provided in funding.
Yeah, I think that's a mistaken wording. So we
Okay.
have a TID that will be closing, that we've extended, that will be closing. And that's where we're expecting the bigger pot of money from. And I'm drawing a blank on which TID that is right now, but I will find out in a second.
Yeah, I think so.
And as you're looking that up, there's other TIDs that
Yeah.
will be coming on docket, in particular, the Tierney project. I know it's been extended a couple of years, but when that TID is done, I don't mean legally done, but when it's fully, I'm not sure the village term of it or the statutory term. But when we have an option to extend that TID, and I believe that's going to be significantly more. Well, I don't know significantly, but it could be $3 to $2 million of cash at that point in time. So it's again, if we have a program and we have needs, you know, we need to be on the forefront, not the back front of that need, and justify not only the 945, but also continuing down the road. What cash do we need and for what reasons?
Yeah, and that's TID 3 that'll be closing, that we've extended. All right, so do we want to, you know, we have been talking about plans for how we would, our bigger plans. Do we want to accelerate our discussions on that
Yeah.
for this year? Yes, okay. All right. Recommendation 5. It's recommended that the village take up the offer to have the MBA students from the real estate program at UW-Madison identify and assess sites for workforce housing village limits. This was completed in 2020 during the pandemic. I think the report was filed. I don't know that there was really any actionable items related to it. Nothing came to the village board at that point in time, but it was done, so.
Should we have an update,
Yeah.
given the times and circumstances? And I don't know what value or what the report said, but is it worth our time and effort to have an update to that?
We could ask if they're still doing it. Tom Landgraf used to send out groups of students to look at empty parcels and then identify appropriate uses for it. I'm not sure if he's running that class anymore, but if I can check, and if he is, I'm sure he would be willing to help. Yeah.
Question for you or Lauren, was any of this a component of the regional housing effort that was completed, or was that more broad?
Yeah, I don't think they had any site-specific information in that. I think that was larger strategies for Dane County, or it is larger strategies for Dane County. Some of the things we had in this recommendation or in this report, though, under our recommendations do appear in that recommendation, not because of us, but just simply because extending TID and doing some of the other techniques have been pretty widely accepted now for a while. But good question. Recommendation number 6, it's recommended that section 133.16 be rewritten. We did this. This was guidance for multifamily. And there's guidance that remains in the comprehensive plan, but the ordinance that we had was struck down. So it is no longer an ordinance that we have the 75-25 split. So any comments on this one?
No.
All right.
So,
Recommendation number 7, recommended that the village work to identify land and developers for smaller development projects such as incremental development at neighborhood scale, including fourplex and small unit multifamily. This has been ongoing as developers have come forward. The twin homes that have been planned and built in Arboretum and Heritage Hills, while they're not infill lots, are probably as close to this recommendation as we've seen. I don't think we've had anybody come forward and recommend propose fourplexes or smaller scale multifamily. I think that's probably a function of economies of scale.
And that is correct, based on from what I saw when I still do tax accounting. And you can see duplexes, fourplexes and eightplexes, all the way up to the large multiplexes. But we talked earlier about having $945,000. What about offering incentives to build duplexes or fourplexes?
Yeah.
Because that's, the land underneath it is really expensive. Lumber prices are starting to soften a little bit, although as interest rates come down, that may change. But the point is that we have money available if that's something we really want to do. And I would go one step further and think about putting into the condo format. Again,
Yes.
starting with the home ownership and wrapping a HOA or COA around it, condo association. Again, helping that group of people with the concept of home ownership or condo ownership and the cost associated with that, and then hoping to leapfrog into something else.
Yeah, I would add townhomes into that list, Al, but I agree.
Yes, I agree.
That first rung of home ownership. Yeah. Abby, did you have other?
I was just gonna ask, like, is there a way that the developers know that we're looking for this? Or are we just waiting for someone to come along and be like, I want to build duplexes in one key? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it came up in the discussion with Heritage Hills, and that's why they've got the twin home product. And I also, from their perspective too, it is, I think, a more efficient way of building, packing a lot of units into a space very efficiently. So they have, Don Tierney included those in the Arboretum Village extension, but those are more expensive duplex condominiums. So we have, two of our developments. Now, I don't think we have any in Westridge, and Golden Ponds, I don't believe has any lots that are set aside for that. So to have not, since we filed the report.
But Veridian did say that they keep an eye on local housing studies. And they've taken a really close look at ours, and it helped them to develop some of the Heritage Hills neighborhood.
Good.
And I understand the Veridian development, but it is crowded. And one of the parts of home ownership is having some green space around you. And for a garden or your animals,
Yes. Your fur babies.
whatever. Whatever. But that's part of the benefit of home ownership is the landscaping, the lawn care, and some of that kind of stuff. Whereas in Heritage Hills, it's pretty well jammed in there pretty tight. So I would offer a second idea to this, and that is the village, I believe, is taking ownership of a lot formerly known as, I think, Wanaclean or Cleaners. Why don't we have that deconstructed, or reconstruct it into a duplex or fourplex. And find someone who's willing to take it on financially with some incentives, perhaps $0 or $1 for the lot, whatever, and we tear it down and they got a bare land, whatever it is, but there would be an option there to have at least a step in the right direction to build something.
I think we need the grant to clean it up first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, plus
Minor detail.
that lot is not exactly in a residential neighborhood either, you know, that if we're talking about the dry cleaners
Yes.
one. So I don't know how that, you know, that's one of the issues here too, when you're talking fourplexes, small unit multifamily, your conflict between that idea and the existing zoning. You know, you can't just plunk some of these things down anywhere you want to because they're not properly zoned for it. So you have a multi-step there to, you know, yes, you can change the zoning, but that procedure has to be done before you could make it work.
I think there are a lot of people interested in being in walkable areas though. And so that's one benefit towards it is it's really close to a lot of things that you wouldn't need a car to get to, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Trisha. Nope. All
Nope,
right.
agree.
All right. Any more comments on recommendation 7? This has been a good discussion. Yeah, by the way. Recommendation 8, it's recommended that the village work with developers to build small-scale real estate ownership projects, co-housing, cooperative, and neighborhood scale units. And we, as a group, thank you, Al, have started that discussion in summer 2024. So do we have any comments on this one?
Let's keep working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, I think it goes a long way. The big hurdle is the land and I have talked to a couple developers and not really interested because, you know, the old WIIFM, what's in it for me? And I hate to say it, but developers will make money.
Yeah,
So, but there are there are a lot of programs out there that we can put together, and the land trust is nothing more than a 501c3, as I learned at the presentation, which can be part and parcel of the process. And there's many ways to put it together. So I'd be excited to have something like this happen. The big hurdle, of course, is the purchase of the land, which again kind of goes to the one of the TIDs closing in a couple of years where a lot of money comes in and the 945, you know, it's a good start. And is there a landowner out there it can't be in the town of Westport anymore, but is there a landowner within the village of Wanakee that would be willing to sell, willing to gift, or willing to part gift, part sell a land for development? And that would be a good conversation to have with whatever available land is in Wanakee, which I don't know what there is in Wanakee.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's not too early to have those conversations and to identify some possible parcels. Trisha and David, any comments?
No,
Yeah, echo Al's comment.
Yeah, Todd?
Yeah, I think trying to find something that could incentivize people to give land or to make it cheaper or for developers to not make a profit.
Ain't gonna happen.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah,
The person with the land might be willing to do something for many
Mhm.
reasons.
Right.
But the developer and they're just not gonna give it. I've talked to a couple and, you know, WIIFM.
yeah,
well, and I think that's where, some of the development corporations that are civic focused come into play because that their goal is to create this kind of housing. And so there's,
Yes.
all right. Absolutely. We will find partners
Mhm.
to do it. Recommendation 9, we recommended that the village require a range of housing affordability options in the same development, mixed income. We've been pretty successful with that all along. I think that's kind of one of the hallmark of a lot of Wanakee developments. When we look specifically at apartments that have been built in mixed income neighborhoods, our most recent additions are Villages on Main, 50 total apartments, 40 were income qualified. The Laurel at Kilkenny has 82 total apartments, and I've got as of August, what the starting rents were in those units are for each of the development. Heritage Hills had 200 total apartments in August when this was tallied, and the Crest had 94 total apartments to date. They do have 2 additional buildings that have been proposed and approved. And I forget how many units those are gonna add, but we're gonna be kind of at our 75-25, I think, believe once the Crest is done. Any comments on this? Trisha or David?
No, I actually think not necessarily a comment, but a compliment. And even when some of these developments have been coming to planning commission or to the village board for either site plan updates, modifications, variations, or new approvals, the staff has been good about providing where are we at in a big picture scheme and giving that. So we're kind of basing our decisions on, what our goal is and where we're at with it. So just more of a compliment on this one.
Thanks, Trisha. They're doing a great job. Yeah. David, anything?
I struggle to look at these numbers and say, is this number 30 for what is, 30% spent on housing, do the math, and it seems pretty difficult to almost think that those are affordable, but
Yeah. Well, a range of housing affordability options. So I guess depending on what your income range is. Rentals are not cheap.
But
Yeah.
that's to Al's point of new programs. I mean, these aren't that far off of Madison rents either, which you're out in the suburbs, so it's a little bit surprising, but knowing how expensive Wanakee is, it's, I guess, not that surprising, but maybe that's something we look into as well as rental assistance,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna go too, and but I wanted to have you say it first this time. Part of our program could be with the 945 and whatever extensions there are, that if someone wants to rent a apartment that's not in that 40 income qualified units, and we can come up with a program that says, hey, we will give you a stipend of X dollars for Y years to get you in a position where you can afford this. Maybe we need to think about that too. And I think about, I'm always thinking about workforce housing. I'm not necessarily thinking about low income housing. And I'm thinking about the waiters and waitresses at Buck and Honey's, and I'm thinking about, what can they afford and where do they come from? And I know there's some statistical information in the back. Is there a way for people that work in Wanakee to stay in Wanakee? And if we have to supplement that a little bit, maybe we do that. Just a thought for a rental program.
There's also potentially something from the rental to home ownership pipeline too. We attract people to Wanakee. They live in an apartment here. We want them to stay.
Yeah.
As a community member, and ideally they end up owning a home here.
Mhm.
But as you can see, to David's point, it's kind of hard to save up for that down payment if you're paying these kind of rents. So,
Yeah. Your
Yeah.
rent is a mortgage.
Yeah.
Again, that's a stepping stone process.
Exactly.
That I talked
Mhm.
about before.
Todd?
I was also looking at the numbers. Thinking it's a lot.
Wow.
My mortgage was much less than that, so.
I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't anymore. When
So
it
everyone
was
stays in their homes.
So,
Yeah.
I don't have any other comment.
I have been talking to some daycare providers. We have been, all of us on the board of trustees, and there are a number of employees, I think, in daycares that would love to live in the village that are providing. And if we had a rental assistance program, I think that would be achievable for them. Yeah. So absolutely.
That's an important sector too. If we could.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. They're the foundation of our local economy and just necessary to our families. Yeah.
Well, it goes hand in hand with having great schools.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Kids exist before kindergarten, so.
They do.
Really?
Yeah, they need a lot of care, turns out.
Wait, don't they start at 4 years? Now they're going to 3 or 2 or
No.
1?
Turns out, no. It turns out grandma and grandpa can't always take care of them 24/7. It's weird.
Let me give them a computer.
Love it.
Well, I don't know that we're that far away from that, but
I love it. So we did recommend back in 2017 that we create an index or a catalog of publicly available programs designed to provide assistance to homeowners and home buyers. And this has really taken a back seat as our focus has been on the community scale efforts and approving and getting some of the other projects underway. So perhaps this is something that in this upcoming year we can work on as a group. Yeah.
I agree with you. However, I think if we have a thought as to what we want to do, I'm not so concerned about all the other stuff around it as much as what our thought is and what other supplements or complements what we're doing. I mean, I don't want to go in left field if we're really in right field with stuff.
Yeah.
So to say, yeah, here's all the programs, because it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
But if we do want to do some type of development program, then that's more relevant than if we want to do a rental assistance program.
Yeah. This feels like it would be a great university year project
Yeah.
to have them. Yeah. Yeah. Rather than putting Lauren your time on it.
Yes.
Bring on the
Does this- Oh, I was just gonna ask, does this not exist? Maybe would probably have, the Wanakee program would have to be added to it, but at a regional or a county level already?
I don't know that have you run across anything, Lauren?
Not that I'm aware of. To my knowledge, you have to go to specific areas or specific websites and know that these programs exist
Okay.
and go looking for them.
Mhm.
And there isn't really a repository of, here are all the programs that are available to you.
That's probably why the recommendation was created in the first place, but, um,
It is surprising that it doesn't exist. We haven't run across it. Yeah.
And I don't know for a fact, but I kind of worked off of it when I put my schematic together. Dane County Regional Housing, whatever, put that 182-page report together. People spent a year on it. I thought there was a whole bunch of programs in there that you could tag into. So they kind of assembled some or all of them. I just don't remember what was in that, but that would be a good place to start perhaps.
That'd be a great place to start. Yeah. Other comments?
There has to be groups that are doing this, because I went to a reentry conference, and for that population, they had collections of programs and stuff that were available. So it would seem like somebody out there is doing this.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
tap into figuring that out.
We'll look into, we will definitely look into it. Yeah, absolutely. Next item up, recommendation 11, it's recommended that the village hold periodic seminars and outreach to provide first-time homebuyers guidance and increase awareness of publicly available programs designed to provide assistance to homeowners and home buyers. And again, this is not something that we've done because we've been focusing on other community scale efforts. This might also be another item that we tag on to recommendation number 11. And if there isn't an existing catalog of these, we can task it with a student. To pull it
Yeah, 'cause
together.
I've kind of had a question about this one, which is first time home buyers, we're probably assuming they're not living here already. So how are you
Yeah.
reaching them?
Yeah,
Assuming that they're renting in Wanakee, are we assuming they're renting in Dane County? Are we assuming they're coming to work for Epic?
Yeah.
We're trying to get them here.
Yeah. I would think, village employees or employees of people working for employers within the village, so not necessarily direct village employees. Renters, alumni, maybe even of the high school, if there
Oh,
are some channels we can have that we can kind of advertise and hope that the word gets out that we're offering these.
But again, it's a proactive process
Mhm.
that we need to do. Can't be
Yeah.
passive, in
No.
Yeah.
my opinion.
I actually think I think you mentioned the bank was holding something like this where our local banks maybe take the lead and we just promote that and try to get, if they're in the front line of where these first time home buyers need to start, we just support their efforts. Maybe if that's their area of expertise, let it be.
And I don't know where this seminar would go, but that's part and parcel of the process. You could have an account or tax preparer there. You could have a real estate agent there talking about different angles of the process before and after the purchase. So it could be comprehensive, or it could just be focusing on what does a bank look at? How do you get qualified? Now, clearly that's critical. Your score, whatever that thing is, I get once a month, which means nothing to me, but that score is critical to a lot of people and to the bank. So, your credit score is very important. And to tell people, hey, you got to pay your bills or your credit score is going to be dinged and you won't be able to buy a home. So I think that's probably critical information, but sometimes you want to put them all together and save time, not to get too deep into everything, except for the loan perhaps, but everything else can be kind of tagged on to that process.
Do we know if the chamber does something like this, based on the fact that its members are looking for employees and want them to look local, and its members are also all of the people that you just mentioned that would be part of that effort are not already doing it or maybe talking about it? Because that could be another group. I just don't want to put everything on village staff, because I think some of this, may be better served being led by other entities.
100% agree.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that's a
chamber would be a
great point.
fantastic idea.
Absolutely. More partners, the better in this
Yep.
one. Yep.
Mhm. Other comments on recommendation 11? No.
Well, my thought is you need to get this information to the employers in the area too, for them to disseminate to their employees, because if they want to hang on to them, which is an ongoing problem with business owners today, is I think if you can put it together, distributing it is the next critical element of it. It doesn't do any good to develop a good program and have it sit in silence. So I would think we need to be thinking about where we're going to take that information, rather than saying that, it's up to the bank, because there's going to be some resistance to going to a bank, because what are they going to try and, push me into kind of mentality, I think, still exists, with a little bit of fear of, the entity bigger than me, and hopefully disseminating it, through their employer might be a little more user friendly.
Yeah, if only we could get Zillow to advertise for us.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I 100% agree with you, David, that the ownership in the end has to be on the employer, talking to their employees and saying, hey, employee, here's a great opportunity. I think you might want to attend this seminar. Number one. Number two, what about a roadshow where we take the roadshow to the employer if it's big enough? And the employer identifies any or all of their employees who might want to attend during a convenient time of the employer, and the roadshow goes on. Now, as far as the bank, you got to have the bankers there. You got to have the realtors there. That's, and everybody gets their due diligence of time, depending what's relevant versus not relevant. But I think the banker is critical with the score.
Mhm.
People got to know what that score means.
Yeah, and to your point about realtors, I know of several realtor groups that do, I don't know that they go to employers, but I know that they go to multifamily apartments and host those seminars, and they kind of go through the process and what people are looking for. So, maybe there's some even in Wanakee that are already doing that, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah.
But,
Okay.
because you're right, I mean, I'm a first-time homeowner, and I will tell you that my first step was not to the bank. So yeah, it was,
With the
hey,
dad.
well, it's my mom, hey, there's an open house, you should go. So it's like, yeah, the realtor really was the first kind of interface we had, but maybe if there is some sort of study we're doing, again, maybe that's part of it, that we try to figure out what are the steps in the home, like where's the best connection point to meet people.
Yeah, for us too, when we bought a home, it was our first home, we
Mhm.
contacted the realtor first.
Mhm.
And the realtor was like, okay, and here's what we need to do before
Yeah.
you can make an offer. So let's get these things done before we go.
Mhm.
Yeah, that realtor was really important. So excellent. Any other comments on this one? All right, this is our last recommendation. The grand finale, it's recommended that the village develop an ongoing committee that includes Plan Commission and Housing Task Force members to continue addressing long-term affordable homeownership options. And thus, the Community Development Authority was established in 2020. So,
Great.
yay. So, all right. Any comments on this? So, no,
Does the board think that we're doing a good job, the CDA?
I believe so.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys would speak for the board here, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Housing Betterment Fund, I mean, is something you guys should be very proud of. It's a great program. I don't know, Lauren, how many times maybe you've sent it to other people or other communities, I should say, not just people, as a template, just like we looked at other programs when we were helping to create and shape this to fit our needs and our kind of our housing challenges that we have. But the amount of work that went into it and the projects that we've seen come through, I personally am proud of it. I think we all should, and I know the board is too. I'm speaking for Kristen right now.
No, keep speaking, Trisha. Keep speaking. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's an incredibly, as we all know, those meetings in particular are incredibly rewarding. So, yeah.
I just have one comment. I can't let that
That's
question
all right.
fly with one comment, and that is, at some point, we may want, because our authority right now is extremely limited.
Mhm.
In conjunction with the TIF money, we may want to think about lending ability.
Yeah.
CDA bonds. There is preferential rates out there, and it'll be another tool for us to use to help a development go along. So giving us the authority to borrow money
Mhm.
or whatever that means, I have no idea.
All right. All right. All right. Other questions or comments? No. All right. That's our last slide. When you do get the email containing these slides, there are 4 or 5 appendix slides that have some workforce data pulled from the loads census data, which the 22 data just came out this week. So it is not as updated as it would have been if we did this next month. But those are kind of for you to review at your leisure if you're interested, but it does kind of provide some insight into who's in the village in terms of commuters. With that, do we have any other comments or any other discussion we'd like to have on the recommendations? Or update on the recommendations? Seeing none, I think that's all we have on the agenda today. So with that,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second. Oh, Todd, you can second.
I second the motion.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. And thank you, Trisha and David, for zooming in.
Thanks, you. See you.
Matt.
See you later.
Maybe.